Still watching Breakfast Central. Let's take you now to South Africa, the southern part of the continent, where the education department in the Gauteng region in the country, South Africa, has raised concerns about the number of schoolgirls who have fallen pregnant in the past year. Now, the department said that 23,000 teen girls had fallen pregnant, some as young as the age of 10.
Wow, now these figures are from April 2020 to March 2021, and this has raised concerns about the safety of girls during the pandemic, many of whom were homeschooled. Now joining us is the director of Teddy Bear Clinic in South Africa, Shahida Omar. Good morning, Shahida. Welcome to the program. Now, 23,000 girls falling pregnant in one province. Now the age range is between the age of 10 to 14 in the past year. This must be a cause for concern, don't you think?
Indeed, I think it's not just a cause for concern. I think it should be declared a pandemic. This is absolutely unacceptable, where little tender children are having children. And I think the reality is that it is certainly impacting not only on their lives or families' lives, but even the infant that is brought into this world. So we are perpetuating a cycle of poverty, a cycle of poor health, a cycle of opportunities in terms of education, career pathing. There are so health implications, social complications or consequences. And I think this requires immediate, urgent attention. And the figures that we are seeing are the figures that are documented. There are many cases that are not documented. So this is not an accurate reflection of the current crisis. And we need to appreciate that children are a microcosm of society. They are reflecting what is happening in the broader society.
Yeah, Shahida, now this is quite concerning because the numbers are quite startling. In just one region of South Africa, that's the Gauteng, 23,000 girls, the documented ones, falling pregnant. Now, many of these girls are extremely young. What is the government, saying about this?
Well, I think at this point in time, the government has been caught unaware, and certainly we're speaking about Department of Health and even Department of Education, because we know many of these girls are school-going age and are attending school or were attending school. But we need to appreciate that not enough programs are implemented, and I think that is what government is now faced with, the challenges of what, where the gaps are and what we are lacking in terms of programs, interventions, and preventative measures.
Right. Now, Omar, we're looking at over 23,000 students, young girls between the age of 10 to 14. Now, report also has it that over 1,000 births has been documented from this number of girls that have been impregnated. And a lot of this happened, according to the reports, during the pandemic. But is statutory rape a concern in some of the cases we have here?
Indeed, absolutely. And that is what we need to understand, that this is not only teen on teen or a child engaging in sexual activity, but we are also finding that there are older persons initiating sexual activity with younger girls, whether it's within the school context, educator on learner, supporting staff, outside of the school context, or even older boys where they're a few years older. So I think, yes, that one needs to factor in statutory rape, but one also needs to understand that a third of the girls that have been impregnated and raped are not because they have consented, it's because of coercion and violation. And I think we need to also appreciate that a child cannot give consent regardless. The age of consent for sexual intercourse is 16. And we know 10 to 14, emotionally, psychologically, cognitively, they are not in a position to make sound, rational decisions. And the lack of resources, awareness, conscientizing the implications of their actions and actions having consequences, many of these children are not even aware of that. So a lot more needs to be done on sexual reproductive health and rights and bodily autonomy, because we're finding that this is more prevalent in the marginalized communities, the impoverished contexts and communities where schools and the communities do not have any resources or outlets or opportunities to engage and empower the children. And I think we cannot exclude the boy child from the girl child. The boy child, the interventions and supportive programs need to focus on both girl and boy, but broader than that. The school community, school governing bodies, adults, significant others, parents, faith-based organizations, all other community-based organizations. This is a co-responsibility, and if we want to break the scourge or disrupt the cycle of teenage pregnancies, we're going to have to work in collaboration, coordination, and ensure that comprehensive programs are provided to the different people on different levels, micro, meso, and macro level.
All right, Shahida, it looks like we're saying that this number of girls in the past 1 year that are falling pregnant in Gauteng, perhaps exacerbated by this pandemic, which kept them home and being homeschooled and falling prey to these perpetrators, like you said, who've coerced them or even raped them, so to speak. But are there any solutions being put on the table with this revelation now? Because 23,000 in the past 1 year is a startling number of teens to fall pregnant.
Well, I think it's not a single solution. This is a systemic problem, and it requires a systemic approach to interventions. So, yes, as I mentioned, I think firstly, we need to look at parenting programs at antenatal clinics with young children. As soon as children are already in the primary school years, speaking to them about safe and unsafe touches, rights and responsibilities, acceptable and unacceptable behaviors. But at the same time, parenting programs where there needs to be platforms created where they can engage in dialogue with their children. This needs to be a consistent, concerted effort by different government departments, different stakeholders, workplace, your corporate sectors, your employee wellness programs, where we know parenting does not come with an instruction manual, and sex and sexuality is not a social subject. There's still taboo around the subject, and many children lack paucity of knowledge. So, on that level, those are one of the solutions. But even in terms of contraception and guidance, our healthcare facilities, where the reception is quite poor and quite accusatory when children go in for support, guidance, and counseling and for information, and as a result are actually afraid to go forward and find themselves with these unintended consequences. We need to understand that children are not deliberately going to fall pregnant. These are unintended consequences, something that they did not plan for. At a 10-year-old, it's not about sexual gratification. Right. It's also about sometimes survival. It's also, in exchange for sexual favors, getting material items. So there are many contributory factors that we need to consider and address that on a systemic level.
Well, thank you so much. Lots to unpack, Shahida Omar. Thank you for joining us live from Johannesburg, South Africa. Yes, Director, Teddy Bear Clinic in South Africa, Shahida Omar. Thanks for your time on Breakfast Central.
Thank you.